Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe to those who are wise in their own eyes and clever in their own sight. Woe to those who are heroes of drinking wine, champions of mixed drinks, who acquit the guilty for a bribe, but deny justice to the innocent. Therefore, as the tongue of fire lick up straw, and the dry grass sinks down into the flames, so their roots will decay, and their flowers bloom away like dust. For they have rejected the law of the Lord Almighty, and spurned the word of the Holy One of Israel. And there's this pronouncement here that was for Israel, and this is what we see in our day, don't we? I mean, does it really take a lot of effort for you to see we live in a time where people call good evil and evil good? Where they say darkness is light and light is darkness. They call bondage freedom and freedom bondage. I mean, just a total reversal of what is real, a reversal of what the truth is, taking bribes to let off the guilty. I mean, we've seen that. I mean, we see people with high crimes being set free. And then we see other people that they don't have any crime, and there's nothing proven, they're innocent, and they've got people going after them day after day, trying to find some kind of way to find them guilty of something that there's nothing there. For over a year, we've had at least one individual, even in our country, in the spotlight that you can hear where they're like, oh, he did wrong. Well, what was it? We don't know. We haven't found it, but we're going to keep looking. Well, what? How does that work? My goodness. Anybody want to go through the scrutiny some of these people are going through? Yeah. Golly. I mean, you can find something wrong with just about anybody in some minor way, and then they want to make it major. But then you have other ones that commit these major crimes, and they're just like, it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Not that I'm mentioning any names, because I'm not, but I don't have to. And so here's that time we live in. Here's that place, and that's what's happening, and especially in our country. I mean, more so than others. In some ways, there's some countries that are moving in a more positive direction, whereas in our country, it's been in such a negative direction. But I praise God that He has brought in someone as a leader in our country that is really turning things up. And here's one of the big issues that we have in the world and that people have. Government is where the power is. Government is where the answer is. Government is what is so important for a people. A right government is essential for people to have the right kind of life. So if you have a wrong government like this, they call good evil, evil good, darkness light, light darkness, things like that. It's really bad for the people. The best governmental system, and this may surprise you, but it's the way God set it up. The best governmental system is a king over a kingdom and people that are subjected to the king. Now, it needs to be a righteous king for it to work. People generally aren't righteous, so it's hard to find a good human being to be a righteous king. Ultimately, the best king to be a ruler and the best kingdom to be a part of would be God as Father, which is what God intended for Israel, right? But they rejected Him. God as Father, and they rejected Him, and they said, we want a king. And Samuel ended up anointed Saul, and of course we all looked at that recently and some of the mess that was. And then David came in as a man after God's own heart and brought the Israelites together, and it wasn't too bad. Solomon, it wasn't too bad. Then the kingdom started falling apart as it went along and things like that, and it couldn't be maintained because it had to be God as Father. Now God found a better way, or another way to do it. Not that He had to change His mind. He knew this all along was going to happen. He sent Jesus the Son to be the king, and the kingdom would look a little different. than what it did before. It's the same way on the Mount when God came, and that's where, we see Moses receiving the Ten Commandments. Prior to that, God comes and he speaks to the Israelites, remember? And he speaks with his voice, and they hear his voice, and remember their reaction to God's voice? Remember what they said? Yeah. We don't want to hear it. We're like, no way, we're going to die if we listen to God. No, if you listen to God, you're going to live. If you listen to his word, you're going to have life. Oh, but it shakes us to the core, and it shows us how guilty we can be, and it makes us want to be holy. Yes! Fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
Yes, it is.
Yes, let him shake you to your very core. Go in fear before him. Fall before him and say, I need freedom from this life. I need freedom from my flesh. I need to walk in righteousness and have his word. Let him be your king and let him be your God, and you can be in that kingdom. But they said, no, we don't want it. And of course, that brought the commandments, and then what? It just brought a law, and then the people start saying, and this is the theme before Saul comes into being king, everyone did what was right in their own eyes because there was no king in Israel. There was a king. It was God. But in the same way they rejected his word, and they had to have a written word, now they're rejecting him as king, and they want a physical king just like everybody else. We want a king like everybody else. And what did they get? A king like everybody else. Yeah, for hundreds of years. And God said, okay, not a good idea, but that's what you want. And he told Samuel, he says, hey, dude, they didn't reject you, they rejected me.
That's right.
God called Samuel dude. You didn't know that, did you? Dude, they didn't reject you, they rejected me. It's okay, give him a king. We'll give him. I'll tell you who to anoint. Here you go. He's going to be really tall. He's going to look like a king. He's going to be great. And he's going to take away their daughters. He's going to take away their sons. He's going to bring them to war. He's going to take away their money. He's going to take away their cattle. He's going to... Yep. Great. And he even warned them. And they're like, yeah, that's what we want.
He's still warning everybody. They don't listen.
But government then is at the seat of what's important. And we have a government that in our country was founded on something that is so powerful because it was founded on inalienable rights that were endowed by our Creator. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, pursuit of happiness, possession of land, part of the ideal with that. But life and liberty, life and freedom. That life is sacred because it comes from God. That liberty, sacred, comes from God. And the pursuit to be able to own things, to be able to possess things in yourself, to be able to have an independence in your life, something that comes from God, ultimately. And that was a great foundation, and that's a powerful thing. And one of the reasons our nation became such a great nation, even though it's not with a king that is a righteous king, they set up a president, and they had a democratic system, a representative government, and all those things. And it's worked fairly good for quite a while. The founders were brilliant in what they did and what they came up with. It's not working anymore. It's really not. It's a mess, yeah. When they started taking prayer out of school, when they started taking God out of school, when they started telling kids to reject God and teaching children to reject God and going into the colleges and going and pushing atheism and pushing everybody away from God and moving into more of a Marxist kind of a whole focus on man as government kind of system and forgetting about God as government, because even in the system they set up, it was still looking to God. Look at some of the words of George Washington, the first president, and the founding fathers and stuff, and they really did have that. Despite what the liars try to teach about it, that was there in the foundation. And so they've gotten away from that, and now we have this system, and people are still so sold out to government that they just buy into all the lies. They see pictures, they hear words, and they start rising up in protest. Oh, we gotta save the children, we gotta save the whales, we gotta save the earth, we gotta save the little frogs and the gnats that are going to be extinct. And it's like, okay, save Save all this stuff. That's great. And they don't even know the issues. They don't even know what's going on. We need common sense, common legislation. And you talk to one group and they say, this is what common sense legislation looks like. And you talk to another group, they say, this is what common sense looks like. And you talk to another group, this is what, the common sense don't seem so common anymore. It's kind of uncommon. Praise God. I might start preaching at some point.